Do you think that the bottom of the knife is supposed to be in the front or the back? Because I feel like any way I wear them, it only shows the white part, and they're little hearts with knives in them. Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom, and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we're gonna check in on the makeup that I bought in February of 2023, 1 year later. As always, and I try to mention this, is that my relationship with makeup is ever evolving. I buy for more than just myself at this point because I have a channel and I like to review things on my channel, and like sometimes I review things that I might not have been interested in myself because there's a large interest from my audience. This time last year, my channel was big enough where I started making a little bit of money on it. I have made more sense about when I purchase something, what it's for, who it's for now, and I have a spreadsheet. I'm taking more care in my spreadsheet this year than I did last year. So that's another thing. Like, I have a much better eye on what I'm buying. I feel like last year I was like buying things. There was like moments and months where I was buying a lot. There's actually a couple months last year where I just bought no makeup. I got no makeup, and it wasn't because I was receiving PR. It just was like nothing was interesting enough to me. Anyway, let's jump into what I bought in February of last year. I made two big purchases last February. Well, both of them I think ultimately were for my channel. So I bought a full face of Kaleidos makeup last year, and that was because I wanted to do a brand review of Kaleidos. Kaleidos is a touch point for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people have tried Kaleidos, and there's also a lot of people who've never tried Kaleidos that might be interested in it. So I felt like it was this good middle ground of a brand that I could review, where it's like there are going to be people who watch my channel that tried some stuff from Kaleidos and are interested in hearing my thoughts on it, and there are going to be people who have never tried Kaleidos and might be interested or more or less interested in it after I tell and share my experiences on them. So I think the Kaleidos purchase could be like categorized as one thing, but we're going to break it down also bit by bit. Do I think that that was worthwhile? Because that was definitely a purchase that I felt like I was making for my channel. Kaleidos interested me well enough because I feel like everyone talked about the quality of Kaleidos. You know, they did that collaboration with Angie, and then also I just feel like everyone had the highlighters. Everyone had that tin with the highlighters in it, and I feel like I couldn't escape Kaleidos, which is interesting. When I bought my Kaleidos and I actually was testing and reviewing it, Kaleidos was in this transitional period, kind of falling out of favor with its own fan base. Kaleidos was really well known at one point for having very colorful makeup that you really couldn't find in other brands. And then they kind of transitioned away from these 5-pan palettes, which I think were really popular for them. And a lot of people were really bummed whenever they decided to discontinue all of those palettes, which I think they did within the last year. Maybe not long after I started talking about Kaleidos. And then they kind of transition to these. I don't think they're entirely boring because I like taupes and smoky colors, but they kind of transitioned into these like quads that are like really smoky and kind of hard to discern one from the other. And they've done a couple collections like that, and every time they come out, it's kind of like, don't you already have that? And while they are like nuanced and different, it is ultimately, you kind of like have one smoky eyeshadow quad, then how is that going to be any different from the other smoky eyeshadow quad that you might have from the same brand? So they were kind of falling out of favor when I reviewed them, but I think the reason that I was interested in them, I just like wanted to be able to speak to the formula. So I don't always keep my makeup. Sometimes I test a review and then I find it a new home because I want the makeup that comes my way, even if it's not for me, to find a home where it will be loved. That's my ultimate goal, right? Like if it's not going to be loved by me, I hope I can find it a place to be loved. That's what I want to do. But I do like to still be able to like try formulas to speak to them, right? So if I try a new formula and it reminds me of another formula, I could say that, and that's going to mean something to some people. And that's what I think is helpful about doing brand reviews or like trying things, even though I might not be super interested in them. It's like just kind of gives me something to speak to. I bought a ton of stuff. Let's just kind of briefly go through it. I bought the Space Age Gifted highlighter, and what I remember is I think I both hated and loved the packaging. I loved the tin packaging, but I also didn't like the way it was shaped, and I didn't like that it was like almost like cubed. It wasn't really cubed. And then it was this multi-chrome highlighter. I thought it was pretty, but it also reminded me a lot of the metamorphic highlighters from Ritual Defee. And ultimately what kind of has happened over time is that I've been less interested in that kind of highlighter. So while I thought it was like cool, I just like knew ultimately that wasn't something that was gonna be for me. It was cool to have like a multi-chrome highlighter. I can't say that like all the metamorphic highlighters from Ritual Defee like have that shift. Some of them do. So it had a really nice strong shift on it, but ultimately it was kind of like I knew from my personal use that that was not something I was going to get a lot of use out of. So that was something that was like fun to play with, not for me. I also tried the Dream Walk blush, which was that bright pastel pink that was really popular around that time. I just wanted to try it. It's funny because like at the time, the whole gig is I don't wear pink. And that was like very much the theme of my channel at that time. I've moved away from, you know, saying that so much, but it was like at one point, it's like, I don't like pink. And it was funny because every time I would wear pink, I'd be like, I kind of like that. So I tried that blush, really liked the color of it. And I also thought their blush formula was pretty phenomenal. I felt nice and buildable, pigmented, but not too pigmented. And I think that's like a blush, you want it to show up when you put it on, but you don't want it to show up too much. And I felt like Kaleidos really found the balance of that. And that was one of the things that I initially kept. Like after I did my review, I was like keeping these things, getting rid of things. And so I had that blush up until December of last year. Like I got rid of it in my most recent declutter. And the reason I got rid of it is because I just like didn't use it after a certain point. I still like that color. I still think it's a nice color, but it's like not a color I'm reaching for a lot. And I also had a shade, it's not exactly similar, but a shade from Surratt, whose formula I like more, the shade Barba Papa, and it has like a sheen to it. And I do think ultimately, I've never really considered this, but I do think I like a blush that has a little bit of a sheen to it. All that being said, it was like, it's this powder matte blush. I like cream blush. I think I do prefer a cream. Like I'm not 100% opposed to a powder blush though. I don't want anyone to think that because it's like not, it doesn't have to necessarily be one or the other. But I do think I like just a matte blush. It's like not something that's going to be very enticing to me. The Symphony Contour Trio, I loved the contour in that, and I'm mad that they don't sell that individually, and I hope it's something that they consider doing in the future. They did sell their like highlighting / setting powder individually, which to me made no sense because it just didn't seem like a useful powder to me. But I have received comments on that video going forward, like Chinese Beauty, that would be considered a highlighter. Like it's not like super flashy, but to me it worked well as a setting powder, but it's just like, it's not going to be my preferred powder. And even if it was a highlighter that we consider highlighter, I wouldn't want that either. And then the bronzer shade in it was nice, but wasn't my favorite shade of bronzer. But that contour was really beautiful and very easy to work with. And the light shade was like the shade that I got was so perfect because it was gray. And that's the thing that I find difficult to find for me in a contour shade. A lot of the contour shades lean more into like the bronzer, like they have more brown in it. I want the gray. That's not for everyone, but I do want it, and I really appreciate that. I talk about it a lot on my channel, but if you are new here, anything that comes in like a face palette, eyeshadow palettes I don't have this problem with. Face palettes I definitely do. Ultimately, I always feel like I like one of the things in it, or maybe two, and then I don't like any of the other things. What happens is, because it's a palette, I don't think about it as that individual thing. I think about it as all three things, and I often just forego reaching for it, even if I do really love the one shade in there. Or if I am using it all the time, I'm going to use that shade up first, and then I'm just going to have all this excess product that I'm not going to use. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I like individual compacts. It's just where I'm at. It makes the most sense to me. That's how I think about it. I like looking in the drawer. That's how, like, just how I like my face products to be, like blush, bronzer, highlighter. I want it all separate, contour separate. So I knew when I bought that was going to be the case, but I did want to try it to speak to the formula, and I think it was lovely. And I bought 2 of their Lip Lab Cloud Clays. Oh no. Wait, cloud is a word. Lip Lab Cloud Clays. Cloud Lab Lip Clays. I don't know that I got the order right, to be quite honest with you, but it doesn't matter. I bought 2 of them. I bought the shades Echo Valley and Golden Rosin. I still have Echo Valley in my collection. It's a nice cool toned brown. It's something I still have. I think this is a good matte lipstick formula. I really like it. I felt like it was very comfortable on the lips. I like the way it felt. It still felt like it had a little bit of slip. It didn't feel like it dried down completely, even though it was a matte. And I liked that. Like, I liked just the feel of it. It wasn't like 100% transfer proof, but it was for the most, like, you know, it didn't transfer a lot. It's really gorgeous. I love Echo Valley. I think it's a beautiful cool tone brown. I love brown lipstick, and a cool tone brown lipstick, excellent. I love warm browns. As someone who leans more pink, I love whenever a brown has like pink in it or gray. Don't get me started. And Golden Rosin, in the swatches and on the people that they swatched on, I felt like it was this beautiful grungy yellow stinky mustard color. Like, that's what it looked like. When I would swatch it on my hand, that's the color it would be. When I would put it on my lips, it just was orange. like a pretty orange, not like a gross orange, not like a bad orange. It wasn't the color of lipstick I wanted it to be. And I have another shade of lipstick that was kind of similar to it, not 100% similar to it on the lips, but the shade Brick from Givenchy. And I was like, if I'm gonna reach for one of these, I'm gonna reach for my Givenchy lipstick. And like also that orange color is not something I wear super often, but I love it. Like I love an orange lipstick. I think it's really pretty. I do. I just suffer from forgetting that I have beautiful lip color, and I will do the rest of my face and then get to the lip and it's like, well, I guess I have to do a nude lipstick because I've done so much elsewhere. That's why I like feel like I don't wear that much. But also I did want it to be like a grungy color and it just like wasn't reading that way. And that might have to do with like the pigment in my lips kind of going with the lipstick. I just think like they were fighting each other and it was like neutralizing into like a pretty orange, but a pretty regular orange that I could get somewhere else. So it just didn't work out for me, but I still have Echo Valley. I bought the Flowing Haze quad, which I could not describe to you because again, all of their quads look the same. I feel like on YouTube and on the internet, we talk about pigmentation, but we don't talk about the nuances of pigmentation. And in my opinion, these were too pigmented. Now they blended okay, like they blended well. Like I don't remember them not being hard to work with, but I don't like instant pigment. I don't think that's a good quality in an eyeshadow. Now, I obviously don't want it to go too far the other way, but I like controlled, sustained, buildable pigment. So if I get something too strong, woo out the bam, I'm not interested in that. And I do feel as though Kaleidos, that was what I was getting with it. And then I also remember being kind of just like disheartened by the shimmers. I feel like I've seen Kaleidos when other people are like using it, that the shimmers are like very impactful. And I remember thinking that they were all right. What I want from indie makeup is definitely different than I want from mainstream makeup. When I'm using a formula from an indie brand, I want it to feel like its own thing. And even if that I have to change my application method to get them to work the best for me, I just felt like the shimmers in that palette specifically felt like mainstream shimmers that I could get from anywhere. Like just any brand can make that shimmer. And that's just a shame. One thing I look for in an indie eyeshadow, specifically something that's shiny, is like I want full impact, and I was getting like not a lot of impact. Like I have an indie eyeshadow on my eyes today. It's super beautiful. It's super sparkly. And it's not, I feel like a lot of mainstream eyeshadows wouldn't have this much sparkle in it. And like, that's what I want. And the last thing was, I think the thing that was the most polarizing in my review whenever I talked about it, and it was one of the multi-chrome eyeliners. I bought the shade Night of Creation and it did not do it for me. I didn't like it in the waterline, and that's okay. You know, I don't always have to like an eyeliner in my waterline. However, I will say like most of my usage of eyeliner is in the waterline, so I do want whatever eyeliner I choose to perform there. However, we can speak to the merits of eyeliner outside of the waterline. Feedback I got on my review, the people were telling me I was wrong, is that they told me that that shade in particular was like maybe the least shifty in their experience, and that the people who had tried multiple shades, including Night of Creation, with that was the shade that was the crumbliest and driest. And that was the problem. It was tugging on my eyelids. And there's something that I will not tolerate when it comes to eyeliner and if I'm putting it on my eyelids, is tugging. That formula should be dreamy and creamy, and then it should set. And it should stay all day. I had so much trouble building up pigmentation with it. I found it just completely unpleasant to use, and I really didn't care for it. And the thing was, I was coming off the back of finding my current favorite eyeliner formula. I had been testing Victoria Beckham behind the scenes, and so that formula is just an outstanding formula. It works really well for me and my skin and my needs and like the way I want my eyeliner to perform. So it had a lot to like try to live up to, honestly, and it didn't end up living up to that at all, and I just thought it was really bad, actually. Ultimately, do I think my Kaleidos purchase was worth it? I don't know. I think because the brand was kind of like falling out of favor with its own customer base, whenever other people who have never bought from the brand start seeing that, like, what is that brand doing? I feel like it makes people not want to buy from that brand. So here I am doing this review at that time when people were kind of feeling some kind of way about Kaleidos. And I still feel like people are feeling some kind of way about Kaleidos and their choices. And it also feels like they've been quiet for some while. Their last release did not go over super well. It was these really, really pale blushes, and they got pushback from not being inclusive enough. How they could have released those and not expected that is beyond me. And then I think they released two more smoky eyeshadow quads that looked like the other smoky eyeshadow quads that they had released. I don't feel like that video brought a lot of new eyes to my channel. I remember the video performing well, but not outstanding. There wasn't a lot of curiosity about the brand outside of my bubble. So my reach wasn't super great with it. So as something that I purchased for review for my channel, I think it was a very mid choice. Whereas when I reviewed Victoria Beckham Beauty, those videos did like really big numbers for my channel at the time. That they were like performing like 100% better than all of my other videos at the time. So like that worthwhile investment got new eyes on me, got new subscribers to me, but I just don't feel like that Kaleidos video had the same impact as that video. By the way, I don't think every brand review needs to be like a home run like that. I'm glad that I can speak to Kaleidos formulas and my experience with them, and I'm glad I have that reference point. Like, should someone down the line be like, have you ever tried Kaleidos? I could be like, yes, I have. Here's my experience with it. It is interesting now sending people to videos with a different background, because like this is, it hasn't even been a year since I've had this background, but like now, if you know, it is the background, like this is my background. It was before this background. It was before I was like in this corner of my room, before I had like set this part up of my room. The other thing I bought in February of last year was the Gucci Beauté Eternité, I have the weirdest name, Eternité de Beauté foundation. And that was their new foundation launch. And it was supposed to be a soft matte foundation. The reason I bought it is because I love foundation. If there's a foundation release, I'm interested in it in some capacity. Even less expensive. Like, it doesn't always have to be at the highest price point. I'm wearing a CoverGirl foundation today, and I was interested in this. I did get this in PR, but like I was interested in this, right? Like I'm just like always interested in foundation. And the reason I am, it's like I don't think I have bad skin. I don't mind the way I look without foundation. It's not about that. I just like love it. I love the idea of a product that just like makes me feel so good about my skin. And like, yes, I do the work to feel good about my skin outside of it. But like sometimes you like having that finishing touch is just beautiful. And I think having a beautiful base is just, especially if you're doing more makeup, like if you're putting on eyeshadow and all of that, like just having a very good base lets all the other stuff shine, you know? And again, there are a lot of people with clear skin who put blush and highlighter, like they do the whole thing and it looks great. It looks great. But I like it. I just love it. I just love a good complexion product. Just makes my heart sing. That, and then also it was a luxury foundation release, which I also really enjoy luxury makeup, and that's kind of like my touchstone. I was like, well, it's a new luxury foundation release. I have to try it. So I bought it, and I think I bought it from Gucci's website, and it came pretty quickly. I had to sign for it, which I thought was so strange because I bought it from Gucci's website. They're like, you just signed for this? And I understand there are definitely like other things that one could buy from Gucci that would be very expensive, and you would want to receive not being left on your front porch, but it's like it's a foundation. And also, knock on wood, we've not had issues with anyone stealing things from our front porch. So, you know, it's like, it's not been an issue. Also, I work from home. Anyway, they don't know that. Gucci doesn't know that. But now you know. Gucci, now you know. Don't make me sign, please. Unless I buy a bag or something. But if I'm buying a handbag, it's not going to be from Gucci. Like, if I have the money to buy a handbag, it's not going to be a Gucci one, okay? I was so underwhelmed with that foundation. First and foremost, the shade range on the light, it's interesting, and I talk about this every time we talk about Gucci Beauty, is that Gucci is so successful in its shade range sometimes. When I think about the Gucci bronzer, the fairest shade of the Gucci bronzer is just like a perfect bronzer shade for me. So good, so nuanced. And then the foundation, I bought the shade like 100 neutral, like whatever the lightest neutral shade was, it was olive, which is fine. You know, we love having olive options. However, reviewing a foundation when the shade isn't great, it makes it hard for you to see what the foundation's doing other than the fact that it doesn't match you. So that's like problem number one. But I also feel like I was just underwhelmed by it so much. It's like, well, I don't even know that I care to find my right shade in it. It was like such a non-event that like I was just like, this is just nothing. So it was supposed to be a soft matte foundation, and I do remember at the time being like, I'm interested in finding a soft matte foundation that, you know, just adds something to like spice up the repertoire, because a lot of the complexion that I tend to prefer is like light coverage, dewy. I don't want to say like 100% dewy because I do powder and stuff. So I obviously like to control oil in certain places and I don't want it to look dewy in certain places. But like I always just find that finish works the best for me. I like the way it looks. My skin's naturally oily. I don't mind my skin looking glowy. And a lot of people who are oily skinned, they're trying to fight it. And I just remember feeling it's nothing. However, and I feel like a lot of the people that I have seen review it with fairer skin or light skin have had a heck of a time and like didn't really care for it. I've seen people with like medium and deeper skin tones really get on with that foundation. Like they were able to find their shade. It's like a really good match for them. It just like didn't work out for me. It's one of those foundations where it just like, it seemed to really work for some people and not other people. And just like, it's like it just didn't work. I just was like, this isn't doing anything for me that I find interesting. And as someone who loves complexion product, loves foundation, it is foundation. Concealer I'm far less interested in. It's because I don't use a lot of it. I'm not that concerned about like bumps, breakouts, redness. Like I'm not always trying to conceal that all up. So concealer is not always like important to me, but foundation is. And as someone who tries a lot of foundations and is like up in my space, just like looking at foundations, I just remember getting up in my face and being like, it's just coverage. I just remember not being wowed by it. But I did like the packaging of it. I loved the mint, like a pistachio kind of colored cap. Loved that. Speaking to that, you know how we talked about foundations? Now I'm doing this thing. Buckle down. I think this is pretty nerdy, but every time I try a foundation, I'm now saving my application footage of my favorite application footage of it, and I'm indexing it. So that way, even if I don't have a foundation, I'm going to now be able to show you when I'm reviewing a foundation, that foundation versus all of the other foundations I've ever tried. And so you're just going to see a side-by-side comparison of what they look like. And then that way you can make a decision if you have one of the other foundations I've ever tried versus the one that we're currently talking about. Anyway, I'm really excited about that. I kind of want to do it with my whole makeup collection, but I think I need to start with smaller categories, and foundation's not something that I have I don't want to say egregious amount, but like a ton of. So it's like easy for me to start doing it with that category, but I think I am going to do that. So that way I could kind of like compare it to other things, even if I don't have it, and I could show it to you on my complexion, I might show it on my skin to show you what it looks like. Was the Gucci foundation a perfect buy? Well, I guess it really wasn't worth it because I didn't even do a dedicated review on it. I think I talked about this in the last check-in, like budget check-in from January of 2023. I bought so many foundations, and I think I only did one dedicated foundation review, and that was on the Makeup by Maria one. Like that was the one I gave like its own video. And then I tried, like there was a Lancome one that came into my life. There was the House Labs one, which I bought. I ended up like just buying a bunch of foundations, or I got some sent to me. And then I like just was like, okay, here's like a roundup video. I just feel like I didn't give all of those foundations their due. And so as a content creator purchase, as like a channel purchase, I don't know that that was like the best purchase for me. And as a personal purchase, I could see the reasons why I bought it, because it's like, it's Gucci, I'm curious, whatever, and just didn't really pan out. I will say I did learn that like Gucci doesn't always hit the nail on the head for me. I tried the blush, which I didn't care for, and then I tried that foundation I didn't care for, and I was gonna swear off Gucci altogether, and then my friend Nicole sent this to me, and like I love this. I like the lipsticks too. They're not like my favorite, but I do think Gucci releases like a lot of cool colors in their lipsticks. So like I wouldn't hesitate to buy another Gucci lipstick, and their packaging is really nice on their lipsticks. I think with further Gucci purchases, I would like to see them in person before I make the decision to buy them, instead of just buying them online. So I think that was a good lesson learned, but ultimately I do think I feel regret about that purchase because it was just kind of like nothing. I do kind of wish I bought it from Sephora so I could have returned it, because I think that's probably what I would have done. I don't know what Gucci's return is, and I was just like, I'm not shipping it back to Gucci. I'd rather just like take it to a Sephora. Anyway, all that being said, it's time to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. Did you buy anything last February that you still have? Did you buy anything in this February? How's that going? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate you watching. If you're new to my channel, this is a lot of what I do. I try to be reflective about my purchases of makeup, and I also try to help myself and help you build the habit of being more discerning about the makeup that we are buying. Does it make sense for us to buy that makeup? What do we have in our collection that can scratch the itch of that thing that we are lusting over? So if that kind of content sounds good to you, I'd love to have you subscribe. Also, just be aware, I do sometimes, I do get PR, and I do sometimes buy things for review, as I talked about throughout the video. It's like, did it make sense for my channel? Did it make sense for me? So I also think about that a lot too. But I do try some new stuff, but I do try to dedicate more of my content to loving my makeup collection that I already have, as opposed to paying so much attention to the new stuff. I also have a Patreon and channel memberships. If you join one, you get the same thing on both, so you don't have to join both. You choose one or the other, or neither, because there's never any pressure to join either of those things. It's just an additional way to support me, not a better way to support me, just a different way. So if you feel so inclined, you can do it. I do an additional video there every month, and then I also do my podcast with Kaki of Kaki Reviews Beauty. That's over there as well, and we release that weekly every Tuesday. So if you want to check that out, you can, but again, there's no pressure too. And that's it. That's all the things I have to say. Oh, you can buy, this is my merch, by the way. You can buy this. It's like an embroidered pink shirt with pink writing on it that says I don't wear pink, and you can buy that somewhere down below. Down below there's a link. So if you're interested in that, you don't have to buy my merch, but this is my favorite piece of merch I've ever released. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to follow your hoe, and you will find me. And I will see you in a video very soon. Go forth, tits out. Bye-bye.